everybody. Welcome to the Greene Space. It's so wonderful to have you here. Come right up front. Sit down in the seat. Staceyann Chin is here. My week has been so much better. I have to tell you, I have a little story. I have a backstory with Staceyann Chin. We are both from Jamaica. We both left later in life. Her in her late 20s, me when I was 30. And my husband and Staceyann opened the first Calabash. I don't know who here knows Calabash Literary Arts Festival. All right, I'm gonna have to go Google Calabash Literary Arts Festival. It is like one of the best literary arts festivals in the world, and it happens in Jamaica in a place called Treasure Beach. So Staceyann never remember how she remember. She remember me, but she never remember me. And I went home on vacation, and I was at my mother's house. And this is in Kingston, Jamaica, not Brooklyn, where we both live now. And I see walking down the driveway, Staceyann Chin. So I was like, what are you doing here? She's like, I live here, right up the street. So in any event, we got to talking by the pool. And I was like, you know, we have to work together. You're just so incredible. I love your work. And anyway, as the universe saw fit, it is happening here. And you are here with us to enjoy it. So let me tell you a little bit about the Greene Space. My name is Christina Newman-Scott, and I'm the proud executive director of the Greene Space, which is part of WNYC New York Public Radio. And here at the Greene Space, we like to say that we channel the collective genius of New York City to create forward-looking live art, theater, and journalism that sparks change, or at least makes you think about the change that you might want in your community. So let me tell you a little bit about Staceyann, even though you know her, I'm sure. Staceyann is with us as an artist-in-residence this week, and her residency explores what home is for those of us who left home to find ourselves or our voices. How do we carry home with us? How do we find it as we move across borders? What are some of the practices we have to institute in order to find balance, calm, and safety? We are so grateful for the support that we get for the Greene Space and for this residency in particular. So I have to shout out some people. So the generous support of the Virginia B. Toulmin Foundation, as well as we get support from the Jerome L. Greene Foundation, MetLife Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Stacey is going to be joined by two dynamic women tonight, and she'll tell you more about them. First, you're going to hear from Mohagany Browne, who y'all know she created the Brooklyn Poetry Slam. Who know about the Brooklyn Poetry Slam? Okay, thank God for Jesus. Because I was like, don't disappoint me on that one. So Mahogany is joining by Zoom because she's not well, but she's well enough to join this conversation. And then you're going to hear from Candice Hoyes, a remarkable singer, TED speaker. All of it is in store for you. You don't need to see me anymore, but you're going to have a great time. And I'm excited to sit in this audience with you. So without further ado, join me in welcoming Staceyann Chin.
Hi. Hi. How are you doing? So this business of home, you know, is always like gnarly, right? I don't know if, you know, there are people here who have like been to enough therapy, so you're cured of all the questions. I mean, you've already done the work around race. The white people here are cured of their own racism. The black people here are sufficiently fortified so that when they do meet racism, it doesn't do anything to them. Is that what's happening in this room? So everyone here, you know, we're just like doing this just for shits and giggles, really, because, you know, we've all mastered the question of home. Can I tell you what I'm experiencing right now? I take up my good self. How many Jamaicans in the audience? All right, two and a half. So when I use patois, then I have to be tonally Creole. I can't just broke out and do the whole thing, right? I have to be tonally, like I have to make sure that the words sound like the word in English. I have to choose my words wisely. In any case, right now, New York is cold as fuck. Is it just me? No, because, you know, having spent 24 years in Jamaica, And then I came here when I was 24, and then I spent 24 years here. And then I spent a year in Jamaica, the last year in Jamaica, and then I just come in for here for the residency now. So I'm a little bit off in terms of what's okay, because I spent the first 24 years in America adjusting to the temperature. You know, when I just came, I couldn't afford, as they say in Jamaica, dry shit in my ass. You know, sometimes I feel like, you know, Americans must think that Jamaicans have such a crass use of language, but it has rhythm and beauty. This is why you like it in the song. Just remember that, you know, when you think that we're not colonial enough for you. So I spent 24 years trying to like deal with the temperature. You know what I mean? Like, I had no money. I was undocumented when I landed here. So who remember Conway? Everybody remember Conway. You know, the other half is just ashamed to admit it. You know when you're like, okay, I used to do that, but I don't do it anymore, so I don't really tell anyone that I used to do it because, you know, it stresses me and like pulls me back to my poverty. But you know, when I came here, you know, I was fleeing Jamaica because I had come out and then been attacked, and so you know, I was like, I'm done with Jamaica, done with them. Don't want to have anything to do with them. I don't want to be in Jamaica. I don't want to cavort with Jamaicans. I no longer want to chase any of those unwilling lesbians who didn't want a lesbian with me. So I was done with the whole lot of them. So I was coming to America now to come and like, I don't know, partake of American lesbianism, so to speak, particularly New York's brand of lesbianism. And so I came here and I thought to myself, how should a lesbian dress? You know, because these things, you know, when you're 24, you are deeply concerned with like what you should look like. So, you know, I was when in my teens, I was very much a church girl, sort of. So I was, you know, I had all these long skirts and dresses and like little moccasin shoes, sort of, you know. I looked very much like Jesus wanted me to. And then I moved into like university where I was on campus, and like freedom had caught my tail and swung me, you know, like from, you know, the proverbial chandelier. So I was now just naked in the streets. You know, my shorts were now like very intimately, you know, associated with my anus. So I had like the shortest shorts and, you know, just trying to be as naked as I possibly could be on campus. Just see how much, like how little clothing could I wear so that I could like still be telling people that I was clothed, but still showing off every asset I thought I had. And then I went into, after I came out, I went into full lesbian mode. I was like wearing these long sheer dresses and like, you know, leather sandals that were like maybe handmade. And I had like cut my hair, and I was wearing, was I wearing earrings then? I can't remember, because I can't remember if I thought lesbians should be earring in. So anyways, it was just very like a very muted, you know, artsy, trying not to pull the gaze of men look. I wanted men to know that I was trying not to pull their gaze. So it wasn't even like I was just trying to like be invisible to men. I wanted them to know that I was trying to not have them look at me. So I was like feminist, deeply feminist, and I wanted to pull the gaze of like intellectual lust. Do you know what I mean? Like I wanted people who were bright to want to have sex with me. People who were not bright, I did not want them to lust after me. So, you know, I used large words mostly. You know, my enunciation was clipped. You know, sharp. You know, yeah. So that's kind of what I thought lesbians look like. But then when I come to America, the damn thing cold. So you couldn't have on a little yellow dress that was like sheer. And so now I had to like code switch real quick. Like, what does a lesbian wear in the cold? Flannel. But fucking Land's End and like Eddie Bauer, I couldn't afford that shit. It was like $60 for like a fucking like Land's End, you know, like. But then Conway had them for like $2.99. So I would roll up into Conway and just buy a shirt. But you know, Conway, the buttons don't put on right. It don't fall the same way. So I'm trying to look all slick and lesbo. You know, the thing have to fit right for you to be like, pull off a fucking like, you know, flannel shirt. You know what I mean? So that was like a deep trauma for me. Wearing this fucking flannel, this cheap flannel from Conway. And I used to go to the Brooklyn AIDS Task Force on a Tuesday evening at the Lesbian Confessional. Y'all don't know nothing about life. It was the late 90s, and we were like full of fervor. We were confessing. Every week at 7 o'clock, we would like get our little, you know, garlic knots on the corner of Bergen and Flatbush. That's where the Brooklyn AIDS Task Force was. And we had a little room called the Lavender Room. And we used to have a meeting called Shades of Lavender because lavender have something to do with lesbians. I'm not really sure what it is, but we were very lavender back in them days. Although Jamaica had no lavender. This is how I knew that New York was superior in its lesbian-esque-ness. You know, because Jamaica wasn't talking about no fucking lavender, but like you know, America, New York, everything is lavender when it comes to the lesbians. You had the lavender singing group, you have the Shades of Lavender, which is the confessional, you have the Lavender Room, like something to do with, I still haven't figured it out yet, but I have hopes that at some point in my life, lavender will come clear to me and I would know why lesbians love lavender so much. But I see you are trying to connect what I'm trying to do here. But, you know, it don't have to connect. Just allow yourself to feel, you know. Allow your lesbian uterus to be, like, pumping with the joy of, like, knowledge or something. I don't know. Whatever. I'm going to start by reading you a poem. I've gone through this book here, and I'm trying to find all the poems that talk about the places and how I feel about them, about home. And it's funny because when you're young, you have all these ideas about what you think life is. And then you get old and your pubes get gray. I don't know, for those of you who don't know, it does get gray. And I've been told, this hasn't started happening to me yet, but I've been told they'd fall out. This one shock you, eh? So all you people who are just ripping it away with wax and shaving it and all that shit, you'll be like talking to the people in the old age home by like, you should have seen it when I was young. It was down to my knee. So a lot of these poems tonight I'll read. And you are going to read you the poems that I perhaps haven't had the kind of intimacy to read. So we're going to be like in here, like all like close and shit. You all right with that? Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Because the last couple of years, you know, like close has been like a bad word. It's like, you're going to give me fucking COVID, get out of my face. You know what I mean? Every time, like, you know, before you were worried about all kinds of other diseases. Now you have to worry that like, oh, you know, Tinder, I'm going to fucking get COVID if I move through Tinder with any kind of intensity. You know what I mean? Like now you have to be concerned about yet another thing. But I'm deeply grateful that you're here tonight. The concept of home is disconcerting for immigrants, and it's disconcerting for people of color. Because even the bodies from the African continent who are still on the continent are still negotiating what ownership of Africa means for them. Do they live there? Do they own it? You know, as they watch white people on that continent enjoy the fruits of Africa. What does it mean to be African, to have a complete, unbroken lineage on a piece of land, to have known that my grandfather and my grandfather's grandfather and my grandfather's grandfather's grandfather lived there, but you still can't make ends meet and you still can't provide for your children and, you know, still, you know, you weren't taken away like those, you know, poor, transplanted bodies who had to flee, who are now seeking their way back to Africa. That you're not them, but then they come with like so much more than you have in terms of wealth and freedom and the ability to move across borders, especially those of us who have an American passport. Here we are displaced and disconnected from home, but we still have more freedom to move all across the planet than, say, the people who were never displaced in the way that we were displaced, culturally. Anyways, my Jamaica. So, all that to say, I'm appreciative of people who want to come and have this conversation, because the thing don't have no end. Kamor Brathwaite, in The Arrivant said, never seen a man, never seen a more landless, homeless spade. And, that was written at a time when spade was the word that was used for like a fellow. And he was talking about the strange positionality of the African American body, because you are a part of this imperialistic structure called America, but you know that you don't really belong to it and you have any power in it. But you move with a passport and you have the ability to work here, and So the thing don't have no answer. So for those of you who are seeking answers, you could just go home now. All we're doing here is questioning together and probably weeping a little bit together and, Anyways, my Jamaica. My love affair with Jamaica has always been double-edged. Two ends of a pimento candle burning towards a slender middle. The indulgent heat pushing me off-center. On this island, there has never been safe ground. The flat cut of Ligony contrasts with the fluid shape of Indigo Mountains. Gordon Town frames the blue-black faces cleaning dirty windscreens on Hope Road. The hunger in their eyes, eerie at twilight, dead, breathing wistful flames at night. Rolling across my childhood memories, the raspy sound of my brother's breathing reminds me that I will never rest. The uneven iron bed wasn't big enough to hold my dreams. My fears, sweating through the polyester nightgown. Water will always find its own level, my grandmother whispers. Sleep now, before the new day come find you still looking into yesterday. Jamaica has always been harsh. Hard words of correction connecting with the side of my head. 2 fingers of water above the rice. Turn down the fire when the pot start boiling, and gal pitney must learn to wash them underclothes. The white uniforms hid the welts on my legs. The blue ties tempered the Catholic purity. Soft sister hands encouraged the metal rosary. B+ was never acceptable in math. You want to sell cigarettes on the roadside? Finish your homework and come get a piece of cornmeal pudding. The land has always been lush. Coconut husks split open to the rush of a moody sea. Sunday afternoons on the endless sand. Pre-adolescent belly bottoms slit to reveal red fruit. Pulpy sweet, angry in captivity. Jamaica has always loved me from a place of random beauty. Women with wide cassava hips and full star apple lips. Women with strong hands reaching beyond their own fears to give their children courage. Teaching them to stand straight backed in the absence of fathers who visit with the smell of white rum in their words. My father has never loved women with soft hands. My mother will show you the scars still wrapped around her solid middle, banning her belly tight against visibility. This child will never be silent. I speak now because my grandmother gave me tongue. I speak now because Jamaica has always given me crosses I will have to bear alone. The only compass has been my mother's needle-sharp pain, shooting proud across my back. Marked like a crab, Jamaica has always been able to find me, a thorn among the bloody hibiscus blooms. My Jamaica has always been the hardest poem to write. And so... you know, I'm 50 this year. At the end of this year, I turned 50. Half a fucking century. You ever wonder how that happened? You know, this process of aging as a feminist, you spend your whole life telling people that age doesn't matter. You know, and when I was young, I was like, whatever, man. I have 4 gray hairs. Look at them. They're great. And then I turn 30. And then I walk across around the block, and the construction man don't say nothing to me. And when I was in my 20s, I was such a fucking, new Christian feminist that if one man look at me with any interest in the crowd, I'd be like, do not objectify me. And he'd be like, I'm sorry. I just think you're beautiful. Do not tell me I'm beautiful. Out of order, objectifying me. You know, and I believed it very strongly and still believe that women should not be objectified. I believe that I should walk through the street naked with my fucking clitoris flung over my shoulder. And I should be able to move safely through the terrain without, all of this shit coming at me from men in the streets, right? However, when it is that this male gaze is taken off of your body, you are at once forced to deal with this notion that all these years that you were thought to be valuable, you are no longer valuable in that way. And even if you never want it, the thing knock you over. And you're like, wait, especially if you have other bits of you that already, mitigate your value. And so at 30, when I turned 30, I had to figure out how to do this aging thing, how to value more than what I looked like in my 20s. And I did a really good job at 30. And then I was like, yeah, man, cool. And then 35, and then 40, and I was like, the thing just keep going on the same fucking track, like things just keep falling down more. I become less flexible. All the sexy ways I used to be able to move into a room and drop my dress and climb up onto the counter and do all kind of things for a lover. You try to do that now, you just turn the whole mood different because now you just have to try and use whole big words to just throw the thing into some kind of sapiosexualness or something, because otherwise, you're just looking, I used to be one of the 20-year-olds being like, oh my God, what's that woman doing in the club? She's 40. She's over here trying to talk to us 20-year-olds. My God, that's terrible. Now I have to remind myself, do not go into the club and talk to the young people, because this is what they will say about you after you turn your back. But it's funny to see how the politics of aging and the politics of positionality informs the actual day-to-day of one's life. Anyways, but I was, I'm running ahead of myself. I was going to tell you, I was going to read a poem about when I was 30. Right? Y'all have to keep me on track, because me, people who write for a living, we are obsessed with the sound of our own voices. Any one of you who have dated a writer, you'd be like, Jesus Christ, do I really want to hear another revelation that you've come to? But, you can't say that, because part of being in love is that you have to pay attention to people's feelings. And then when they're like, oh my goodness, I have had a feeling, you have to be like, yes, honey. I would love to hear about that feeling right now. Even though I'm hungry and I want to go to the bathroom and I think it's going to be diarrhea, I'm going to sit here for 25 minutes with you and listen to your story and your feeling, because I love you and I'm trying to be a good partner. Have you had that feeling, or is it just me? On becoming 30. So this was when I thought I was really old, because I had hit 30 and I felt as if, in Jamaica, they say your age is about to come off of the calendar, meaning there is no month that you will find your age anymore when you're on the calendar. They say, oh yeah, our age drop off the calendar now. So that's like a kind of You know, in America, people be like feeling sad when they say that, but Jamaicans are, there's a kind of matter of factness when you are dealing with larger tragedies than feelings. All of a sudden, like, you know, language becomes very efficient. You know, nobody wants to sit around and discuss the correct way to say, you have something on your mouth. Go and wipe it off. You know, in Jamaica, I had to adjust. My kid had to adjust to hearing things said directly. You know, words like fat don't appear in America. You'd be like, okay, in Jamaica, you'd be like, oh, what is the fat one or the skinny one? In here, you can't say that. You have to be like, the one that is standing on the left side who is in the red shirt and who has the ponytail. In Jamaica, no, man, the fat one. Be like, I didn't say that. But you are talking about the fat one, right? Or, you know, something other than that. Like, you know, the one with the buck teeth. Very loudly because, you know, Jamaicans assume that because we can all see the buck teeth, that everyone is deeply in deep agreement that there is buck teeth and then we don't have to pretend about it anymore. It's a very interesting thing to be moving through these two cultures. I want to tell you that I spent 24 years in Jamaica, and then I moved here, spent 24 years, and then I spent 1 year in Jamaica. So I'm like half my life here, half my life in Jamaica, sort of, and feeling like I'm doing it again, going back and forth. And there are ways that I've become accustomed to Americanizing that I have to figure out how to drop and lose when I'm in Jamaica. And then when I come back here, I have to remember that I cannot say, no, is the fat girl in the corner. I can't say that because, you know, and in Jamaica, the other thing is that fat is not a bad thing. It's not an insult. It's just a fact. Just like, you know, if, you know, somebody had, you know, bad breath, they'd be like, yeah, you know, the one, their breath smell bad. Be like, I don't want to be in this room having this conversation with anybody right now. Because like, everybody know our mouths smell bad. But anyways, this is when I thought I was super old. Is everybody doing all right, or am I talking too much? Okay. I'm also wearing a pretty tough skin these days, having been in Jamaica, that if you feel like I'm talking too much, you could tell me, like, you're talking too much, just read some poems. You could just say that to me. I'm not in the tender stages of my life right now, having just come back from Jamaica. On becoming 30. I am inching into 30 and my body thickens. That's quite a laugh because I was actually thicker than I was when I was younger. A lyric of many measures, the chorus inside me swells to meet my grandmother's stoic silence. Her hips have always been wider than mine, wider than my mother's. Under the influence of a distant song, our footprints depress the earth in different time zones. The collective visible only in fragments. People and places no one knows anymore. I am affected by women who age beautifully. Women who sing off-key in public places. In bathrooms, in the absence of fathers and dead sons, the women in my family ingest convention like duty. Sacrifice is the only way we know how to say I love you to our daughters. In my small world, Mama Lou begat Bernice, who begat Hazel. She begat me before she was forced to flee the barbed wire of poverty. Those long hours laboring for someone else's children. My mother sacrificed her own for a chance beyond this ordered nature of things. Tradition makes it impossible to pave a pathway if you are a woman, if you choose not to wear the dress rehearsal of wife. In some places, husband is just another way to write warden on the walls constructed around little girls. And my mother chose her own freedom. And if I were not so busy being left behind, I would play the drums for the price of her liberty. I would tell you of her nights spent tossing in strange beds, hollow panels for headboards, dark halls echoing the names she would spend 3 decades trying to forget. The smell of Julie mangoes still remind her of my grandmother. My mother buckles under my anger, Forgiveness extends to her only through my German sister, who knows nothing of Jamaica. 90 miles off the coast of Cuba, she knows. These women have always walked ahead of me, hope moving their children towards a dream of America. And everyone knows poor people will do anything to get a visa. And still, I grow older. 4 gray hairs shoot silver from my scalp. I am beginning to look like my grandmother. Only I dance visibly out of step with time as she knew it. I loop my arms around the faces that refuse to see me, in tribute to Louise, my great-grandmother, and Bernice, my grandmother who stayed. I raise my fist for me, for my mother who had the courage to leave. The lack of words between us reminds me I come from a line of women with dark scars for last names. Women who sing in secret chorus across blue waters. Women who are quick to tell me time has always been longer than rope. Women who are still teaching me how to play a part in this endless song. I'm going to read you one more poem, and then I'm going to... I feel like COVID is just really like laying us out. I mean, you know, just fucking you up when you think like, oh yeah, it's over, done, party over, party done, COVID party over. And then I'm having this event, we're all excited, people are gonna come out, and then half the people either have COVID or exposed to, but you know, Mo Brown is like hella fucking juicy and sweet and wonderful, and has been in the community planning all kinds of, you know, I mean, I've seen her just, you know, come into a room and like make it come alive. I don't know if you've ever seen Mohagany Browne in a room, but and the poems that come from this woman's pen, you know, she wrote a tribute to her cousin. We all did like some essays for Modern Love in the New York Times a few months ago. And she wrote about the love between her cousin and her, and celebrated this woman who most of us in our ignorance would look at her with her many children and her, you know, lack of education, or like deep celebration about how this woman taught her how to love and love herself. And I you know, I'm grieving that she's not here tonight, but deeply grateful that she's going to join us right after this poem by screen. And all of you will just act as if she's here in the flesh and blood. All of you just be like, lose your mind. You're at a Michael Jackson concert when she come on the screen. You hear me? Have you ever seen those videos of people lying? I think Beyonce, people do that now for Beyonce. But no, like Michael Jackson's concert, they used to have ambulances pull up, right? You know, I mean, you know, Michael Jackson, like, the whole conversation is like gnarly again, because, you know, you can't talk about Michael Jackson without talking about, like, you know, the ways in which it has been reported that he, you know, interacted with young people and caused them great damage. So I never speak of Michael Jackson without talking about that. However, all of you should just act like you're at the Michael Jackson concert when Mo come on the screen. Is that clear? Yes. Okay. I don't know if y'all know anything about Jamaica, but especially when I'm in black rooms, I have to explain this nuff. But any of you know Kenny Rogers? There's only one Kenny Rogers. What do you mean the country singer? Like there's a footballer named Kenny Rogers? Don't let me jump out of this and fight you over Kenny Rogers. I mean, he's a white man, and you know me just not really go for the white man thing, you know, like, I must say that I have the confession to make. I've never slept with a white man. I don't know if it's lots of you have feelings about, like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that, Staceyann, but thank you for telling me. Oh, we'll talk sex a little later. But I don't know if you know that Kenny Rogers is like Beyonce in Jamaica. Like, when Kenny Rogers was breathing and doing concerts, there's absolutely no concert that man can come and do in Jamaica without and hear himself sing. He can't hear nothing because guess what? The audience singing every line, every time, all the time. I mean, and my brother and I mean, the story, the poem is self-explanatory, but I'm going to read it for you. And every time I hear a Kenny Rogers song, I think of my brother. Because, you know. Anyways, you ready? Y'all know the song, The Gambler? I'm going to beg you to sing it with me, Alika. You know the chorus? You got to know when to hold 'em. Oh. Know when to fold 'em. Know when to walk away. And know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting. When you don't know the words, I don't know if I'm like misracing you, but you're white. You know, I'm very disappointed in you. You should at least know Kenny Rogers. You are deeply disappointing to me as a white person. You should know. You don't know this song at all? It don't sound familiar, none at all? After pushing you, you say, let me just say yes. Okay. Anyways, this is like a hot tune in Jamaica. We have the reggae version. Look it up. When you finish, you gotta Google the reggae version of The Gambler. When I was 6 years old, my brother was everything. Quintessential Jamaican boy, hard exterior, like we like our boys, unforgiving like black men are encouraged to be. I adored him. Frugal with his love as well as his money, his affections were conditional. I loved everything he did, and he loved him some Kenny Rogers. So, I love Kenny Rogers too. For 9 years, he was my only reflection. Both of us brown, abandoned by our mother. Him with lighter skin, yes, hair straighter, but we were similar enough to see ourselves in each other, hurt enough by the world to fiercely love each other. He loved me grudgingly. I adored him like an eager pup loves a reluctant owner. In charge of everything we did, my brother made me sing country music like we was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. We spent whole afternoons begging, Ruby, don't take your love to town, singing daytime friends and nighttime lovers, like we was all drunks reliving tragic lives. And my brother loved The Gambler most of all. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. He sang The Gambler like he was Kenny Rogers himself. I couldn't understand why he loved that song, but I would have followed him anywhere. So I sang that Gambler with gusto. Then our mother returned one summer, separated us, sent him to Mount Salem, left me in a place called Paradise, and disappeared. The distance between my brother and me, only 2 miles, might as well have been 2,000. We became single children of Sisyphus, pushing the rock of abandonment up disparate mountains. No more Kenny Rogers. He switched to reggae. I listened to Melissa Etheridge, Sarah McLachlan, Michelle Ndege Ocello. We both tried so hard to remain close, but our love wasn't meant to survive, never meant for holiday dinners and lasting relationships. Our life was marked for infrequent, awkward reunions laced with sorrow. We lived every day pushing against our deep desire for love, needing people but guarding against that need. Such is the delicate wiring of emotional dysfunction. The few good times we had were complicated, rare, magical. Circa 1999, we found compromise in Mariah Carey. Speeding 100 miles per hour on the Autobahn. Windows down, we sang into the cold night. Felt so alone. suffered from alienation. Happy as I was, I kept thinking, you know, being a lesbian is going to one day cost me my first love, my brother, the only boy whose opinion of me ever really mattered. I needed my brother's love, but I also needed him to know me. So I took a chance and baited fate, and I told him everything about the girlish collisions on campus, the tacit lovers who went with me to illegal house parties in Jamaica, the pretty girls residing in the smallest closets on campus. I couldn't be silent about any of them. I told my brother everything. I talked about the boys who assaulted me, about their hands and their rough fingers and their rounded fists. And he listened as I talked statistics about the rate at which they were killing people like me in Jamaica. Frightened and resigned to losing him, I told him everything. And my almost twin, both of us discarded by our mother, both half-breeds, both seeds of my mother's ill-conceived youth, only 2 years older than me, my brother, who had no reason to, said he loved me. My Jamaican boy, raised on a stout diet of violent homophobia, said, "You're my sister, so it don't really matter." And I didn't quite know how to tell him how lucky I felt to be his sister. I wanted to sing the gambler right there for him. I knew then that our bond would survive anything. We loved each other, ill-matched as siblings, witnesses to each other's pain. We developed a routine of sustainability. Whenever we disagreed about anything, he would mostly walk away, and I would mostly not let him. At each fracture, I would tell the boy, "Listen, each other is all we have, you know. Come on, man, we survived mommy. We could survive this." So the last time we argued, I was surprised how swiftly the tables turned. How without warning, you never see these things coming. In an instant, we were children again, forced to make beauty out of tragedy. The house of cards we'd constructed collapsed. Unable to find a way forward, we both folded. Bound and broken by all we had endured, we found ourselves unable to hold on to each other. Angry and intractable, my brother walked away. And this time, I let him. It's painfully poetic that the contention was about our children. This irony proves everything about parenting and progeny. Generational trauma cannot be sidestepped. Today there is nothing but sadness between us. I know nothing of his life, he knows nothing of mine. Our childhood is no more than a silent scream, except for the odd memory triggered by an old playlist, cartwheeling me back to us as children, unwittingly belting out our future. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. So I'm gonna invite Mo Brown in on the conversation, because I know you got some shit to add about parenting and movement and bodies and spaces in your work.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, we can see you.
Oh, good.
We just can't smell you.
Oh, good. I smell like frankincense, myrrh, and iced tea.
You so black. You so black.
That's what I'm going for. I was going for the Renaissance, you know. And I do appreciate a Janet Jackson fanfare, if I might add. That was my very first concert. So thank you for bringing in the lineage of like absolute stardom. I love listening to you read poems, Staceyann. My goodness, what a joy.
So many of us, knew each other, in our beginnings of our writings and our work, and there's so little space given to, poets who read their work loudly on stage in the poetic world. There's so little space given to Black girls. There's so little space given to loud Black girls. And so it isn't always a very comfortable experience to be alongside each other because we are so painfully aware of how little we belong and how we each must distinguish ourselves from each other in order to, have the establishment give us room to belong. And I must say that in all the time I have known you, I have never felt any of that from you. And I have always maintained that how you move and how much joy and love and energy and how much fanfare you make for young poets and for other poets, you are so much of a better human being than I am. Like, I ache to be the kind of good you are, that you light up a room and that you make such wonder and beauty for people who encounter you. Thank you for being you.
Thank you. I think I'm really lucky in the sense that I was trying to be this kind of light, right? The lighthouse. I wanted to be in witness and witnessed. And I know what it's like to be the wrong kind of Black girl, which is just alive, if we're honest, which is just with an opinion, which is not smiling and skinning and grinning to make other people feel safe. So the one thing that I tried to do is something that I witnessed Sister Sonia Sanchez do, who is,
fly as ever,
legendary,
and
right?
Ready with the love all day long.
And she's ageless with it. Mm-hmm. She gives the same amount of love, care, and respect to youth poets that she does to a poet who may have a Pulitzer. Mm-hmm. And I never forgot the way she made me feel when I was first coming up and I saw her at Medgar Evers. I was in I was in the Caribbean Lit class and a poetry class. And that was like one of the assignments. They didn't have to tell me nothing because I was already working as a poet, or at least trying. And I was like, I'm going there. And I remember what she did, and that I just felt so unshakable. You know what I mean? Like I am here, like for real, because an icon saw me, because the legend acknowledged me. And so I have work to do. I have to earn my keep, because if Sister Sonia looked me in my face and said, "Good to see you, sister," then I need to be seen every single time. And I need to do what she's doing, which is making sure that the next poet that walks in that room understands that, yeah, there's a lot of people who opened that door for us to even walk through it in the first place. But we have to keep the door open. We have to make sure, take the hinges off the door, whatever you need to do. But you also have to be a bearer of goodness, and good is just, alive. Good is just alive and here, and welcoming your kin into a space that has denied us entrance for so long.
You've done so much work with ushering other poets' voices into spaces. I mean, you did it over at Brick with the when you created the Poetry Slam program over there. I see you doing it at the Lincoln Center, who don't do enough for Black people and Black spaces. I was up there the other day cussing them out on stage, telling them they need to be making more space for like Black voices. They need to stop paying like Black poets pennies when they pay these mediocre white poets a whole bunch of money to roll around and belly paint or whatever the fuck they be doing up there. But whatever. You see, which is why you're such a better human than I am. However, I want to talk about how it is that for so many of us who don't have safe space, who don't have home, who don't belong anywhere, why is it that you spend so much of your time making space for young voices? I mean, I'm sure you could be doing other fly things with your life. I'm sure the people in your life would be like, why the fuck you going up this youth poetry thing again? You haven't even been home in 2 nights or 2 months or 2 years or whatever. I mean, I'm sure you get it because you're out there doing that work. You know, what pushes you to do it? What is imperative for you?
When I was coming up as a young person, I didn't have a poetry group. I didn't have a poetry teacher. I actually dropped out of high school during my 11th grade. Yeah, first semester, 11th grade. My her addiction really kind of toppled the household, and I couldn't be present. And my grandmother, she took me back to school. She said, dropping out who? No. So she took me back to school. And I just remember not feeling like I could even share this story because of the judgment. I couldn't share the story of, failed suicide in my household. I couldn't share the story of mass incarceration. I didn't have a way to talk about it without shame. And I didn't have a support group where writing was, that center point for us. And that was my love. I would find libraries that didn't know me because I had to steal books at one point. I had a time, child. All right, look. But I wish there was an urban word. I wish there was a Youth Speaks. I wish there was a righting wrongs. I wanted a New Eurekan. I wanted the African theater space in Queen. Like, we didn't have that. In California, we didn't have that. So now that it is accessible and available, I'm pushing it. Like, I am, whatever it takes. I will do the extra legwork. I will edit the poems. I think at this point I've been working with Urban Word NYC since 2003, and I coached over 10 slam teams between each of the levels. So that's youth, that's 13 to 20, excuse me. And then it's 18 to 24, and then it's the adult league. I did 10 years of that, those at the same time. And it moved me because it reminded me that I am a communal artist, and some of my best work comes to me and pours through me when I'm able to be of service. But it was a lot because then you're the only one doing it, or there's not enough of you. There's not enough of Mohaganys and the Jives. There's not enough of the Chanel Gabriels. There's just not enough of the people who are willing to do work for the young people at low cost to no cost, because we know if not us, then who? Mm-hmm. And that's why I do it. That's why I make time, because no one made time for me. And the only reason I'm still writing poems in this way, at this capacity, is because my grandmother refused. My grandmother refused to let me go. She refused to lose me to the system. She refused to lose me because I didn't have a place where I felt like I could just, be free and share my experiences. We ain't even gonna talk about therapy because that wasn't even a consideration. At that point. It was like, take care of yourself. Don't eat a lot of sugar. Yeah. Good night, right? So the poetry, I just wish I had it. And now once I found it, I'm never letting it go, and I'm never going to let the wheels fall off. So that's why I make time. I make time because little Mo didn't have the access.
How do you manage? I think about coaching 3 different groups of people here and there and everywhere. And how do you manage family home life? How do you balance that with the flood of doing that happens in the world? I mean, how do you make those 2 things work so that home, the smallest concentric circle of home is safe while you're expending all this energy on the outer circles?
That's a great question. I'm actually going to probably ask you for your advice, because you put up a whole artist farm colony in Jamaica. Y'all should know, me even getting off the phone, I was like, I don't feel at my best. I'm recovering from COVID, which I caught on the plane, even though I have my mask on. Everybody else ain't got their mask on, so mask up, fam. And you were like, come through, because you're doing it. You know what I mean? The doing is actually the love. And I think, you know, my partner is a poet, my daughter is an artist, and everything that I did outside of the home, specifically for the community, it felt like it was still a part of our home. It was a part of our living, because that was a part of our world. And I did it as long as I could.
How old is your kid, Mo?
She's now 25.
25. So like, and mine is 10, and every day. Did you second guess yourself about what kind of home you were creating? Because every day I go through like this mad crisis that I'm fucking up this child. And I put a little bit more money into the therapy fund for later because, you know, for those of you who don't know, you should go to the Loveland Foundation, like, you know, and try to get, there's free therapy over there, just the Loveland Foundation. Just go to it and get some free therapy. Yeah.
Get with it.
Yeah, but
you are
seriously,
doing an
like,
amazing job.
Yeah,
you're doing an amazing job.
Well, I mean,
don't second guess
it
yourself.
always look good on the outside though, because the memoirs, everybody's like, oh yeah, everybody thought we were doing good, but
Yes.
So, you know,
Fair.
and then we provide them with the language that she gonna write it later.
Yep.
So it's not like, you know.
I think when I knew that I was killing the game is when people came to me and told me, oh, I saw Amari and da-da-da-da-da, and she's amazing. She's so brilliant. And Amari just cussed me out the other day. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't want to eat breakfast. I don't even like this kid. Yeah, I had her 23 hours of labor and I don't even care, right? But in the world, she's amazing and perfect. That's how I knew. All right, she gonna give me all of the stank. I'm getting all side eye, all neck.
Listen,
roll.
I'm just, you know, the stink is rising rapidly in my house. Rapidly.
You got 3 years, and this
rapidly, and she eloquent as fuck, Mo. Eloquent. I mean, yeah. Anyways, I also want to talk about how is it that you maintain a sense of belonging and home as you're dashing from here to here? Because, I mean, you've been at Brick, you were at the Lincoln Center, you doing this, you doing that. I mean, I know you friends with, like, Dominique, who is, like, I know you got, like, everywhere I go all across this country, across this globe, somebody's telling me, you know, I'm dating this woman, she be telling, oh, I love Mo. What you know about Mo? You're not even in the same generation. You know, so I want to know, how is it that you, like, you know, that you remind yourself of like home as your body is darting from place to place? Because that's one of the things I'm struggling with now. Like, you know, I loved Brooklyn for so long, and then I loved Jamaica, and then I hated Jamaica, and then I hated Brooklyn because it's like, oh God, who the hell lives like this? After you've been in Jamaica, you'll be like, I have to park the car where and carry the groceries from where, and how many homeless people do I have to like fight through to get to my door? You know, there are ways in which wherever you live, it becomes norm, and then you shift to something else, and then the other thing becomes like, what? So, you know, and I'm you know, like, here is cold, there is, you know, hot, you know, like, how, I mean, I'm struggling with finding, you know, the woosah.
I think the pulse of home is always in the practice, right? Like, when I am out in the world, because we get these really great opportunities to, here's a month-long residency, which is amazing, except if you're paying New York City rent. Not so amazing. Now I'm like, where I'm going, I'm leaving. I've been paying all this rent. What? But I need it because New York won't let me rest. I don't get to just sit and write when I'm here. I'm doing. So I take those moments and I'm like, what do I do every day to make myself still? There's meditation, there's a sound bowl, there's my specific coffee. I have to French roast it. I have to do something that feels meditative and mine.
You gotta teach me how to meditate. I don't know nothing about no meditating.
That's good. That's good because you're a poet. So you already got the beat work down. It's already in you. You know how to
see how like affirming she is? She'd be like, oh, like, I am going to kill people. That's good that you have access to your anger.
Yeah, you need to know that you could take somebody out. We need to know what our levels are, all right? But the breath, it's the breath. And I didn't know that we were already doing that work as poets. When we get up on stage, you don't just jump into your poem, Staceyann. You like take a beat. You remember, all right, where am I feeling this most? Okay, I'm gonna do this poem, not this one. right? So that too is a meditation. Just where am I going to be my best self? And I just take little parts of that, and that's how home continues. Otherwise,
You gotta
I would be
come to
spiraling.
Jamaica. Like, fuck these people in this room. You gotta come to Jamaica and like hang with me on the, because like I'm negotiating all kinds of things about, like the normal process of negotiation here, the conversations, the jargon, the language happens here in a certain way, and then you're dealing with like villagers who don't want to say nothing about gender. What you mean? The girl must wear pink. And then, like, but it's still like, but they got other shit to teach me about race and like respecting elders and like, so I'm not trying to act like I know I have all the knowledge, but you gotta come sit with me though. You really have to, can we get like some of these philanthropists people to pay for a residency for you at Kindred? You have to come. Like your energy is
I think so. I say yes. I think the Greene Space already offered us to get together for real. So like, why not do a retreat in Jamaica? Why not?
Fantastic. I wanna get Candice in on the conversation for a bit.
Okay, while you do that, I'm gonna just read from my favorite book. I'll be back. I wish I had your accent. Ooh, I would kill it. Right? Hi, Candice. You look stunning.
Hi. I know.
Hello, Fuchsia.
Hello.
Yes.
When I saw you put your clothes on, I was like,
listen.
Why you gotta make me look like this?
Listen, I've been loving both of you for a long time, so I had to come with something.
And you got a kid that's 10 too, right?
Yes, and the last time that I saw Mahogany in the flesh, I was very with child. I was like,
yeah, she was Kreger.
You remember? I was
and you were still hitting them notes. You was singing like nobody's business.
Andrita was there. Yes, it was pop. I looked like a big orange. I wore like a solid orange dress. Like, when you're at the end of the pregnancy, there's only one thing that fits, which is like the tent thing. The A-line. So, yeah, it was like a week before I gave birth at the Well-Read Black Girl Conference.
Jeez.
But it was such it really, it was the best thing. And I brought my daughter, and it was one of the, those type of gatherings of Black women to talk about what we're writing and what we're feeling and be together and share it. I can't miss that. A sister circle I don't miss. So
I want to throw the question to both of you. Like, where is home for you now if there's one place? Like, what makes you feel at home? What gives you the sense of home? Like, where's home for you now, post-pandemic?
That's a great question. I would say only because I spent 3 uninterrupted months there for the past 2 years. I do winter in Antigua. So that I'm wondering if that's home for me. I feel so safe and secure and fed, and the sun be kissing me and the salt water be salty, and yeah, I would say Antigua has been divine. But I mean, I'm always Oakland, an Oakland baby, Oakland baby living in Brooklyn.
I'm coming back to you with like, what does it mean for a person, who has lived in America to claim somewhere else as home? I'm coming back to that. So where is home for you, Candice?
Me included then, because I always lived here. But Jamaica, in a sense, is home for me. I consider myself a Jamaican woman. And if you ever want to hear somebody laugh hard, you should hear me say something in Patois to my mother, Lakshmi Jennifer Williams Hoyes. And like, for example, this weekend I tried this restaurant in Brooklyn, and she's like, "What did you get?" And I was like, "The yard man plate." Oh God! Listen, Staceyann, I know. She died. She just fell out. I do it on purpose. But I mean, for me, that's a place that we always return to. So during the pandemic, my husband and I got in the car. We drove 20 hours with our 2 real little kids before they were vaccinated. and spent the year and a half inside the house. My sister joined after she was trying to stick it out in Atlanta, and she folded. We all ended up in the house in Florida, where I spent most of my childhood. And actually, there was this painting of Blue Lagoon that my grandparents had that somehow ended up in my sister's bedroom. And I spent a lot of time with the painting, and it started to open me and speak to me. And it just reaffirmed that this is, in a sense, home to me. But I think that, and some work has come out of that for me. So that connection felt really strong. But I think knowing my heritage through the interiority of my family and watching my parents somewhat assimilate in the United States, but still have this very potent, powerful Jamaican experience in the inside of spaces, has let me carry that home with me. And so I can know that, my name is Candice, and then my whole family calls me Candice. It's I have that duality, and I know I don't ever friggin' say it right, but I also think that patois is why I love music, because I think I got patois before I got music really, really. Before I piano lessons when I was 6, I had patois in the house. I think that home is like a interior experience for me. I'm not just with the confinement of the pandemic, but just it kind of always has been. So.
And what do you think people of color in America, do you think that we think of home differently now post-pandemic? Do you think that has shifted our understanding of home, watching race play out during the pandemic and at the height of the Black Lives Matter fracas?
Yes, I think that home is a higher bar. I think community is one that we thought a lot about too, and that the two are somewhat interrelated. I think that as feeling a strong sense of community can foster a sense of home even when you're displaced. But that's a good one. Yeah, I mean,
I want to jump in. I love that. That was good. One, you said home is an interior experience. I'm already tweeting, okay? But I wonder, as a Black woman in America, home was clarified for me. This country that my people built, it is ours. We deserve to be here too, but I don't feel safe here.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'll be okay. And so that's why it was so easy to start. Where are the most people of color? Where are they at? Antigua, I think they're 97% Black, 92% Black, a lot of Black people. And it's and economically it's across the gamut. So it felt like I'm not just going to experience this rich living because one, can't afford that, but also don't really want to experience that in the face of impoverished people either. So how do I go stay somewhere, make sure the money that I'm paying is going into a pool of a community of people? So I made sure I was staying with a person who owned the space, who lived there, who was from there. But it was clarified for me. It absolutely was clarified.
That's that be moving all my intestines and all of my shifting my aorta and different ventricles and shit all in my heart cavities, because I really am struggling. I want Jamaica to be the kind of free for me that I've been in Brooklyn for the last 2 decades. You know what I mean? I want Black women to be taking up space and being loud. I mean, when they weren't given a space in Brooklyn and Johannesburg, we taking it. It don't matter if you're giving us space, we taking it. And that's
Yes.
that's a kind of reality. I mean, around sexuality, around fashion, around just being loud,
Shirley
around
Chisholm.
art,
Politics.
Right. I mean, we have. I mean, and I know the ways in which the larger sweep of us across the globe takes up space, but there's something about Brooklyn in the way we take up space. You know what I mean? This is why we got all these white people running everywhere we camp. They find us.
They come.
Because
They coming.
whatever we create in that space is what
Yes.
it calls to, it I don't know, it just make people know it's nice, it's sweet, it's yummy, it mangoed gushy. Like, come get it, you want it. It's
Mango
gonna be good for
gushy.
you. And so there's something alive and beautiful, like the kind of swag of Brooklyn. There is nowhere else on the planet that you find it.
Right on. But honestly, Black women everywhere. Brooklyn is
for sure.
Be clear.
Brooklyn is
Love it.
on test,
But Black women everywhere be
For
this
sure.
kind of magic. It just, even if it's spaces that they frown at our
At
value
sexuality or
and sexuality, but when you get into the small room, right?
I mean,
of
we
Black
run.
women, you'll feel it.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
alive. You
For
see
sure.
it when you go to the market. Any market, you gonna run into Auntie and she gonna tell you what it is.
For sure.
If you got it wrong,
For
she's gonna
sure.
correct you
For
because she
sure.
loves you.
For sure.
Right? And then you're gonna see the babies doing the double dutch or braiding the hair. Like we're bringing the magic. It's generational. It's in our bone marrow.
But there's
And it doesn't
something.
matter
There's something
where
about
we go.
Brooklyn. There's something about Brooklyn that feels. There are places where the classes bleed into each other. So you can find people who don't have a lot of money alongside people who do. I don't know if it's the subway or if it's the housing. All of us don't have, palatial homes, so we don't really look.
Isn't it fair to say that there's nobody hell-bent on crushing your hope either if you're trying to do something? I love
I
that
don't
about...
know if I can say that. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I mean, I hear you, but like, America be
think that's
planning.
Brooklyn?
America be trying to kill me all day.
I know.
Every corner of America trying to kill me. That much I know.
I just meant Brooklyn.
But even in Brooklyn, they're trying to kill me. Except
hear
that
you.
in Brooklyn, I feel like they're not just trying to kill me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
New York
Brooklyn,
City,
they
they're trying to kill
all black
everybody. You know what I mean? The city is out to get everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody is
Equal
struggling unless
opportunity
you
killing.
unless you Wall Street or,
Yeah.
the wealthy. But I'm just talking about the ways in which, like tradition and history and family and the ease of community can happen in places like Antigua or Jamaica or, South Africa or, the DR or wherever. There's a way that it can happen. And I find that it doesn't necessarily happen here. And so I'm like, kind of just weighing it now for the kid, like, okay, when does she get what? Because I certainly want her to be here during the teenage years so she could be loud and wear what she wants without like the auntie telling her, no, that's not appropriate. And it's not even about the shortness of it. It's like, that outfit don't go, the colors don't go together. Like, there's a whole conservative, like, around dress. And I mean, the delivery man coming with the food will say to my kid, what are you, a boy or a girl? Because she's not wearing like Supergirl earrings and she's wearing like a t-shirt and, running shorts. So there's no marker for him to identify what gender she is immediately. And so it's a very interesting thing to watch her be in that space after being in New York where it was, people wouldn't even ask, because it doesn't matter here in the same way. But I don't have any answers for this question that I'm asking. But it's really like, I think the pandemic shifted something. It showed me that I don't have to be tied to a geographical place, that I don't have to be tied to my history or where my paycheck comes from, that there's a way that I can imagine and, articulate and actually, experience home from somewhere else, that borders, for those of us who have the space and the freedom to move, that it doesn't mean like, oh, she's got to go to that school, or she's got to be in that house, or you have to be in this zip code to call yourself, at home.
Yeah.
And that shifted something big for me, and I'm still trying to figure out what it means,
Yeah.
to know that.
I love the reckoning, because it's like you oscillate between several places, right? Where you want to go and what you want to provide for Zuri and yourself, your growing self, and your child self. But there's also the understanding that there isn't any one place. So really, it goes back to Candice's brilliant articulation of home being an interior experience. So when I feel most safe, when I feel most fed, when I feel most seen, when I feel loved, like those are the experiences that feel like home. So then it's just about ease and comfort, because I work too hard. And Brooklyn is really good for this. Actually, New York is exceptional at making you pay for shit you deserve more of. We pay for 30% of what we actually we pay for 100% and get 30% of what
I'm
we're
laughing
paying for,
because
right?
I'm guilty of paying for that.
Hell yeah.
And I want you to have it. But it was the pandemic that made me stop trying to hanker deals and maybe if I just skimp on this and don't eat that and don't go here and only once. No, I'm going to live and be happy, because life is not promised. And the panini showed us Mahogany doesn't have natural light. If you see how many lights is in this house right now, just so you can see me, bananas. This is also why I'm moving, because I wanted windows. And I don't want it to be like a thing to ask for. So when I was going apartment hunting, one of the men said, when I said, oh, there's no natural light. He said, oh, you need light? I said, humans need light, brother. Yes, I need light, especially if I'm paying for light. Don't show me nothing that ain't got no natural light, okay? But
a bushel, they're showing you bushels.
Yeah.
They showing me garden apartments that live by a rat tree. It's the most.
Did you say rat tree?
Not a rat tree.
They dig in and they live in there. And New York is crazy. But I just stopped feeling like I had to suffer because my artist self did not know where her check was coming from. I started moving with abundance and living in the now. And that's the one thing the pandemic has taught me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I haven't really said this publicly, but I just started a foundation for people who have lineage in Jamaica, but have never been there, or they left when they were a kid and haven't come back in a long time. And a part of Kindred, a part of the work of Kindred is that it will provide a landing pad for people who want to come and visit. And if you're not sure, staying with family or whatever, So this question of home has been haunting me for quite a while, and I'm doing everything I can to kind of open up the idea, the sense of I know that you have a song for us.
Yes.
That I want to invite you to share this song, and because if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about the song and where it came from.
So I was at a point in around 2017 where I'd been left music school about 8 years before that. I was playing a lot as a classical musician, lots of casting. And what it did to me, I built up a fine resume, and my heart was somewhat broken. And how could I reconcile that when I had actually chosen over something you don't know, but I went to law school, and I had very intentionally chosen to be an artist. And I said, how can I reconcile this? The fact that I'm doing the thing, but it's not giving me it's not feeding me, nourishing my soul. So I started to look into people I admire, memoirs, archives, started looking into Zora Neale Hurston. The first time I read Zora Neale Hurston and was able to feel a window in me open as an artist to be was in my first Black women's history class in college, which was just a seminar of Black women. And to read Black literature written by Black women in a circle of women in that way became a window for me. So I started to commune with Zora Neale Hurston in this time. And I started listening to the audio archives of her, and a very, very powerful interview she did in 1946 with Mary Margaret McBride, talking about a story she tells in Dust Track on a Road when she's 7. And she felt, she said, and Mary Margaret McBride kind of spurred her on to tell this story, that she thought the moon was following her. She believed the moon was following her at night. And I thought, man, I'm so intimately familiar with that feeling, not just as a mother, but as a Black girl. I don't think I ever, there's a irrepressible part of me that I thought, you know, I don't know, maybe I thought it was personal, but I realized that there's something to us, and that perhaps to have longevity as an artist, you have to keep that kind of perspective, that wild cosmic perspective. So I sampled that piece of the interview, and quite specifically and quite pragmatically, there's a part of it of talking about grants. It's so reflective of my actual on the ground experience as a New York artist, like trying to figure out, and I threw that shit in there intentionally. I sampled that part because I was like, you better apply for some grants. You deserve that money. And I put it in there to provoke myself. And then I started a new relationship with me and the work, the other people. Like, you know, it changed. I pivoted. I started producing my own work. I started writing my own work. I started mixed media. I started spoken word. And I had another child. This time I recorded my album that's to come, Pregnant. And I said, I want to have that experience. And again, so much about, you know, the sense of home. I wanted the music not to feel like classical music either. Very, very, very intentionally, I wanted it to feel like the intimate Black spaces that made me great. Not the Academy, not Lincoln Center, what have you. You know, walk up, I could hear the bass thudding. My uncle was the DJ on Long Island. All these Jamaican immigrants, college kids, some had parents, some didn't. My parents were there, and they show up and you bring something, and you feel the asphalt moving with the bass. It's a basement party.
So this is the song you're gonna do tonight?
This is the sonic palette of the song.
Oh, I'm excited to hear it.
Yes, hopefully I evoke the scene, but like those are the spaces that raised me, and it's an homage to Zora, but also so much to like the spaces that raised me. The soul.
This is this
Zora's moon.
Yeah, we the team is gonna cuss me now, but I just want to know. No. I mean, do you want to be there, or do you want to?
Oh, we're cool. I'll like. Oh, you mean like why am I not on the stage?
No, I can easily just go sit next to somebody cute
For sure.
over there.
You should. You should pick somebody.
And then
they'll love it. I'll leave this here. Ricardo, should I stay right here? Okay. What's that? Come on up. Yeah. All right.
Of course, that just gives no idea of all the things that have happened to Zora Neale Hurston in that time. She's had Guggenheim fellowships, and she's been elected to anthropological fellowships, and what's that other one? Ethnological fellowships.
Yes, folklore.
Yes, and she's gone around the country collecting folklore and done a beautiful job. But all that will come out, I think, as we talk along. I was amused at so many of the stories in Dust Tracks on the Road. There was one thing you said about children that I love. Isn't it true that when we're little, we just think the world revolves around us?
Yes.
Things are going to happen to other people, bad things. They aren't going to happen to No, sir. And that thing you said about the moon, tell about that.
Well, if you go outdoors tonight and the moon is up, you just don't think the moon is in right now. But anyhow, if the moon is shining, you go out and you run, and it'll follow you.
And so it was arranged. The moon will follow me, whatever hell way I ran. The moon will follow me. And I was shocked when I found out it followed other people. 'Cause I thought I was just something very special. And still I didn't quite, well, I didn't quite believe. How could it go with him when I'm going my way? Y'all can move a little bit. That's it. Going my way. Well, if you go outdoors tonight and the moon is up, you go out and you run, and it will follow you. So disillusioned when I found that it followed other people, making the same claim. Thank you.
All right. Woke us up a little bit, and that was the perfect segue into inviting the audience if there are any questions before we send you home to, cook or masturbate or whatever you will do with your evening. I suggest masturbation because it takes the edge off and you won't get COVID from anybody.
I'm here for you.
Questions from the audience. Thank you so much, Candice. Thank you. And thank Mo for being here. There's a question back there. Yes.
Hey, Candice.
Hey, Gary.
Just got a quick question for you. You were talking earlier about like COVID and dealing with it, and how you went to Florida for a brief period to kind of, get some space and get some outside and, get away from like the refrigerator trucks and stuff like that we were seeing images of every day in New York. I did the same thing. I went to Connecticut for a while, maybe 6 months to a year, I think 8 months maybe. Did you feel any feelings of like, anxiety about like looking at the people who could not escape?
Yes.
And like, how did you deal with that kind of?
Thank you, Gary, for asking that question, because Staceyann asked me that too, and I almost wasn't emotionally ready to put the words around it. You asked me about home, and did we as people of color or Black people feel, displaced or violently shaken out of that sensibility? Yes. We're neighbors in Harlem, and we both live near the hospital. And oh God, I mean, I love to run outside. That's probably why I wrote that song. That anecdote grabbed me. I couldn't run after Ahmaud Arbery was gunned down. I was terrified, and I said, I just kept saying to the family, like, they said, we can go with you. I said, no, you don't understand. I don't want to run if I can't run by myself. And also, no one's going to come look for me if someone takes me. I really said that so many times. And so, yeah, I never think, I love community. When you said home, I said community back to you, because it's like the two things, I like to, ride with them together on either side of me. And like, I'm still heartbroken about it. I don't want to forget. I just want to make art out of it, and I want to help people with it. But I'm fucking angry. I'm angry at the what do you call it? What's the word for it? I mean, the indifference, the way the world kept going. I'm not recovered.
Thank you for the question and for the deeply considered answer. But we're still in it, and we're still talking about it, and still making art of it, and still making sense of it, and still making, a way forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Shoot.
How does it feel up on that beautiful mountain with all of us confined in our boxes?
As we say in Jamaica, nice. I mean, free, but also, I mean, as Mo said earlier, no one place is going to be everything. And so I take my lesbian identity deep into the rural parts of, Jamaica, and I have to come out carefully and strategically to the people in the village who might have very different ideas about what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing with my body sexually. And how open I am with my kid might be a problem for them, and how open I might be with their kid might be a problem for them. But, I've talked to other people who have built community, and they largely say, do your best, provide opportunities, be a good partner for the community, and the rest of it will fall into place. and, trust that the problems that come up, if you bring your best self to the table, that they can be negotiated, and commonality can be found, common ground can be found. That's kind of where I begin and where I hold the truth of it and where my hope lives, But it's gorgeous. It's fantastic. I mean, if you go to my Instagram page, there's a shitload of beautiful imagery, the kind of things that people go to there specifically to get pictures so they can put on Instagram. So make your way there. Kindred on the Rock is the page. You should follow us, and you should, send sanitary napkins for the people in the community, and send T-shirts for them to wear. And we need rubber boots. I don't know, whatever. Thank you for that question. I think we have time for 2 more questions, and then we have to go home because, I'm on a masturbation set schedule. Yes.
I love you. Hey, Candice.
Hi, Joyous.
Thank you for inviting me tonight. This was absolutely phenomenal. I just want to take a moment to just express gratitude for each of you and Mo Brown sharing your homes over time with us through everything that you did tonight, and being so transparent, being so open, and being who each of you are. I really don't have a question. I just want to thank you. I spent 6 months during the pandemic in Tanzania, and I got up and left, and it was so easy. And I've always been asking myself the question, why was it so easy? And to hear each of you just share today was a confirmation I didn't know I needed, about how home can sit in us in the way that it does. So just gratitude and thank you for this evening.
I appreciate
love,
that.
Love, and more love. All right. If you can make the questions short, we can do both of those. But, the people who work here have to go home and masturbate also.
It's a really simple question. Thank you for inviting me, Candice. To you and to, I don't know if Mo is still here, but what is inspiring you now? What are you working on now? Maybe it has to do with the post-pandemic time in your life, or something that has been revealed to you by the last few years. We've heard what you've already done. What's coming?
I'll say mine real short. I mean, as I was telling y'all, I feel like I was doing okay, but maybe I wasn't living in my fullness. So now I find I'm not forcing things as much with my art, and even with my family, my relationship with me, I'm not forcing things and into, the wrong peg hole or whatever. And then this type of abundance can happen for me. Like, this is huge for me. I'm probably going to write something about this. It'll manifest in some way, not so literal, but there are rewards to lightening up, making space for something else. So not to sound too abstracted, but just maybe not being such a New Yorker about everything.
For me, I would say building this community in Jamaica, pulling up pipes and laying cement and making things accessible for people with wheelchairs, building the most beautiful relationships with people who will ring my phone and say, Miss Chin, we have some jackfruit, you come in? And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And then I run over there and bring some jackfruit, get some jackfruit. And then she goes, yeah, I have some pak choy as well. And she give me some, and I go home and I eat it for dinner. I mean, life on the side of that mountain is remarkably less complicated than here. And so trying to find a way where both things can coexist, because I know that I cannot be seduced by the simplicity of that life, because there is edge on it as well, because that's the country in which I was attacked for being gay. So I can't be seduced into the nostalgia and the oversimplification of people and their lives. The more the parts of me expand, is the bigger the space I need for home, and the bigger the space, not necessarily in terms of acreage, but the bigger in terms of how many things are in it and how many people I have in it and the kinds of people I have in it. So New York is absolutely home for me, but Jamaica is also absolutely home. And maybe that's a conversation about whether borders should exist for people on the planet in the way that it does, where only the rich can claim the multiplicity of identity with regard to residence. So maybe that's a conversation that should be happening about land and movement and freedom and how that has to do with oppression as well. Second question, last question of the night. Y'all just can't be raising your hand now. Grab us afterwards in the back.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Whitney. My question's for Staceyann. First of all, I've been an audience member in your talks for 15 years. It's always a pleasure. I think being an artist requires immense vulnerability and kind of choosing what you want to share publicly and what you want to keep private and sacred. How has that ebbed and flowed for you as an artist throughout the years? How has that shifted, changed, and maybe shifted and changed as home is also shifting and changing?
I think I've been lucky to have, even in the most deeply brutal moments of my life, been able to find resilience. And so, in the ways that those boys in that bathroom, 12 of them, flattened me, literally, and took parts of me that I will never get back. I'm grateful for my grandmother, who taught me that suffering is not a phenomenon given over to other people, that humans suffer. And so I understood that in my life, that there would be moments of suffering. And so when I peeled myself from that bathroom floor and I dragged my body home, I understood that this was my window into the room of my own suffering. And that I understood that there were other people in the world who were suffering other things that were far more tragic and things that were not as tragic. And that if I moved towards healing, that I would find myself again, because I had seen and heard stories of my own grandmother's brokenness and all the terrible things that had happened to her and my mother and my aunt and women around me, that I understood that this thing had left me with breath so that I would live. And knowing that I would always, that as long as I had my ability to breathe, that I would always live, meant that I could then use that breath to tell the story. And that in the telling, you exorcise so much of it. And you learn more about yourself and you connect with other people, talking about community. You connect with other people and you learn of other people's suffering and you find yourself expanding in your capacity to hold suffering, which meant that you also had more space for joy when it came. So vulnerability is not something that I think about on its own. It is a byproduct of my consistent reach for connection. That you cannot connect with people if you are shielded in invulnerability. And so if I'm concentrating on reaching through all the barriers that I had to put up to keep myself safe when I was a kid and when I was a teenager and when I was a young person, if I'm concentrating on stacking those shields up, then nobody can get to me and I can't get to anybody. And so when I focus on looking in your eyes, even when I'm scared of what I'll see, or listening to you, or hearing your breath, or answering your question in the most honest way that I can, I find myself being pulled towards you and pulling you towards me, and something that was a moment ago intangible becomes tangible, and then we are now connected. And I don't know, I mean, you know, I feel like every time I break, something in me opens. And so I'm not afraid of like breaking in the way that I was when I was a kid. I've broken, you know, the shell of me has been broken so many times that, you know, I already know that I'll heal. So it's just the annoyance of it, the annoyance of the journey of healing. You're like, Jesus Christ, I've done this so many times. I'm so tired of this. It's like your laundry. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. I wash his drawers so many times, but you know that the gunk is going to come out of it shortly when you throw it in the wash and you goes round and round, and it's going to smell good and it's going to be warm. You're going to put it on and then you can masturbate. Thank you so much to WNYC, the Greene Space. Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you, Jennifer. Where's Amber? Amber, raise your hand and wave. You be fucking like amazing. You know, the people who make these things happen, you know, find Amber and tell her thank you. Don't come up to me alone and yeah, see, you know, tell her how amazing it was and how she made space, and the people who put the chairs together and the sound people and the people who move the chair and the people who, you know, I mean, and before you go, introduce yourself to one person you don't know tonight. Just get up right now when we say goodbye because, you know, Jesus saves and all that. And then just introduce yourself to one person you don't know. Opportunity to be cute and sexy.